There's this inherent curiosity in all of us, isn't there, about the unknown. And it gets especially intense when that unknown turns, well, tragic. Today we're going to talk about the events surrounding the disappearance and murder of 8-year-old Sarah Payne. It's a case that didn't just impact one family, it sent shockwaves across the entire UK. It's a story of terrible loss, yes, but also an agonizing search and a fight for justice that actually led to significant legal changes.
Absolutely. And what we'll cover isn't just, retelling a single tragedy. This case really exposed some critical problems, some vulnerabilities in how children were protected back then, and it sparked this huge movement for child safety. So we're going to walk through the timeline, the search itself, which was massive, and the pursuit of justice that followed.
Okay, so let's picture Sarah Payne. She was born October 13th, 1991 in Surrey, England. So in July 2000, she was 8 years old, the third youngest of 4 kids. Her parents were Michael and Sarah Payne. People described her as a real girly girl, love fairies, dolls, that kind of thing, but also quite shy. So July 1st, 2000, it was a Saturday warm summer day. Sarah and her younger sister Charlotte, who was 6, they'd spent the morning at their mom's pub. Later on, the whole family, Sarah, her dad, Michael, older brothers Leah, 13, and Luke, 12, and little Charlotte, they packed up. They were heading to East Sussex to visit Sarah's grandparents, Les and Terry. It was something they did often, a trip to the coast.
A regular family visit then.
Exactly. They got there, had dinner. Afterwards, the kids went outside to play off some energy. Then the whole group, except for Grandma Les, decided to walk down to the seafront. So they're on the beach, kids are playing around, and Grandfather Terry suggests a quick walk into the village nearby. A friend had just done up their house. They figured the older boys, Leah and Luke, 13 and 12, they knew the area. They'd be fine on the beach. The adults wouldn't be far. So 8-year-old Sarah and 6-year-old Charlotte stayed with their older brothers.
Seemed safe enough just for a short while.
Yeah, Sarah's mom, dad, and grandfather went into a village pub. Maybe 20 minutes or so. But when they came back to the beach, well, the scene was just awful. Charlotte was clinging to her mother's hand, looking really scared. And the boys, Lee and Luke, they were frantic, shouting, "We can't find Sarah!" And the family knew instantly this wasn't right. Sarah was so shy, she wouldn't just wander off. Apparently, she couldn't even play hide and seek properly without getting anxious.
You can just imagine the panic. Immediate raw panic. Sarah's mother just ran, apparently straight down the road, looking everywhere. The others just fanned out, across fields, towards the beach, just searching frantically. But they needed to know what happened, so they tried talking to the siblings, Leah, Luke, Charlotte, who were the last ones to see her.
Yeah, trying to piece together those last moments from traumatized kids. It's horrible. So from what they could gather, Sarah had stumbled, maybe fell, got a bit upset, and she just said she was going to walk back to her grandparents' house. So Leah, her 13-year-old brother, he followed her, just like a few feet behind. Luke and Charlotte were still playing, but then Luke and Charlotte started shouting because Charlotte had fallen over to hurt herself. So Leah turned around, just for a split second, he said, and when he turned back, Sarah was gone. Vanished.
Just like that. In that tiny window, it's heartbreaking. He was right there, doing the right thing. And it wasn't like she'd wandered off into the distance. She was just gone. So within an hour, they'd searched everywhere nearby, asked people walking past. Nothing. And it was getting dark. That's when they knew they had to call the police.
And the police response was fast, really fast. By 9 p.m., officers were there. It was immediately treated as the highest priority. Officers pulled off other duties straight onto this case. At first, they searched that immediate 500-meter area, ditches, culverts, anywhere a small child might fall or hide. Maybe she was just lost. She didn't know the area that well, but nothing turned up. No sign of her, no clothes, nothing. So the possibility of abduction quickly became, well, the most likely scenario, like she'd just been whisked away.
That phrase really captures it, doesn't it? Whisked away. Because that complete lack of any trace is what worried them most. So standard procedure kicks in. They spoke to the siblings again, very carefully. And that's when Leah mentioned something crucial. He remembered seeing 2 vehicles on the road near the field, a car and a white van. He specifically remembered the man in the white van looking at him, smiling, waving, and then speeding off quickly. That detail, the white van, it immediately became a major focus for the police.
And there were these awful statistics hanging over them. In 90% of child abductions by pedophiles, the child is often killed within 6 hours. Just imagine working against that clock. It must have been unbearable, but they kept searching, desperately hoping she was alive, maybe, locked up somewhere she would be found. The story just exploded onto the news everywhere, gripped the whole country. Hundreds of ordinary people came to help search, offering anything they could.
Yeah, and with that urgency, police procedure is clear. Check registered sex offenders in the area. It's standard, but vital. And this led them pretty quickly to a man named Roy Whiting, 41 years old, a known pedophile living not far from where Sarah disappeared.
And Whiting's history, it's chilling. 5 years earlier, 1995, he'd abducted another 8-year-old girl, same age as Sarah. That was in Crawley, about 25 miles away. Took her off the street, assaulted her in some woods. He got 4 years in prison for that. But the psychiatric reports, they were contradictory. One said he probably wouldn't reoffend, but another one, done while he was inside, said it was almost certain he would.
Almost certain. Yet he was released early.
Exactly. He only served 2.5 years. And when he got out, he moved to a seaside town full of families, kids. Police later said they thought that move was deliberate, predatory.
So naturally, police questioned him about Sarah. He apparently seemed suspicious right away. But he denied owning a white van, that key detail. And he gave an alibi for July 1st. Said he was at the Brighton Fun Fair.
But the officers weren't totally convinced. Something felt off. So they did something pretty smart. They didn't just leave after questioning him. They waited, watched his house from their car for a bit. And within minutes, Whiting comes out, goes over to a white van parked nearby, the very thing he just denied owning. As he opened the door, a little piece of paper, a receipt, fell out. The officers just walked over, picked it up. It was a petrol receipt, dated July 1st. But it wasn't from anywhere near Brighton. It was from a garage quite far away. His alibi just fell apart.
Right there on the spot.
Yep. So Roy Whiting was arrested right then on suspicion of abduction.
But he wasn't talking. He stayed silent in custody.
Right. And meanwhile, the search for Sarah just kept going. It was huge. Over 500 police officers. That's like 3/4 of the whole force for that area, plus all those volunteers. Underwater teams, helicopters, teams checking any disturbed ground. By the Wednesday, just 4 days after she disappeared, they'd had over 10,000 separate pieces of information called in. Every lead was followed up, but none of them were Sarah. Investigators had to start preparing her parents for the worst, and then, July 17th, 16 days after she vanished. The news everyone dreaded. A farmer working in his field about 25 miles away found. He found disturbed earth. It was Sarah's body. DNA confirmed it within 24 hours. Cause of death was strangulation or suffocation. Probably quick.
A small, grim comfort, maybe, that she hadn't suffered for a long time.
The missing person case became a murder inquiry. But there was a problem. Initial forensics on Sarah's body found nothing. No fibers, no DNA from an attacker.
It seemed like the killer had been incredibly careful, forensically aware.
Yeah, it was a major setback. But then something happened. A member of the public called in.
Crucial call. This woman remembered seeing a child's shoe by the side of the road at a place called Coolin Crossroads. This was about 8 miles from where Sarah's body was found. And she'd seen it a whole week before the body was discovered.
She hadn't thought much of it then. You know, kids lose shoes.
But after hearing Sarah had been found nearby, she went back. And the shoe was still there. She realized it wasn't just lost, someone would have claimed it. So she didn't touch it, called the police.
And that single shoe, it completely transformed the investigation.
So what was happening with Whiting during this time? He'd actually been released after the initial arrest. Not enough evidence to hold him longer then.
Yeah, he moved in with his dad in Crawley, trying to escape the suspicion. His dad's house even got attacked by vigilantes.
Then he went camping. Unbelievably, near the area where he'd committed the 1995 abduction.
Police had him under 24-hour surveillance by this point. They knew he was high risk.
And while they were watching him, he stole a car, led police on a high-speed chase, rammed a police car, crashed, got arrested for reckless driving.
Right, and that arrest gave police the chance they needed to properly search that white van he'd bought just days before Sarah vanished.
The van itself was interesting. It was a furniture van lined with plywood inside. Police suspected he chose it deliberately, thinking the plywood could be easily removed and burned to destroy evidence. Shows that forensic awareness again.
But the forensic teams were incredibly thorough. Despite him obviously cleaning it carefully, they found one single blonde hair. Just one.
Yeah.
And that shoe from the crossroads. Forensics tested it. Inside, they found tiny fibers.
Fibers that matched clothing found inside Whiting's van.
That was it. The hair, the shoe fibers, it linked him directly, even after all his efforts to clean up.
So with that evidence, the case finally came together.
Whiting was arrested for Sarah's murder while he was already in prison serving time for the reckless driving. February 2001, he pleaded not guilty. Did the same again in November. The trial lasted 19 days. He denied everything. But the evidence was just too strong. The hair, the shoe, the petrol receipt blowing his alibi apart. The jury found him guilty. Guilty of abduction, guilty of murder.
He was sentenced to life in prison, with a minimum term of 50 years, which means he won't even be considered for parole until 2051. He'd be 92. Police reckon he'll die in prison. It also threw a harsh light on that earlier release, didn't it? Released despite warnings.
Absolutely. And the aftermath. Sarah's family, the public, they were outraged. How could this man with his history be living freely unknown? Sarah's mother, Sarah Payne, she campaigned relentlessly for change. She felt people had a right to know if such a danger was in their area.
And her campaign worked. It led directly to Sarah's law in the UK. This law allows people to find out if a registered sex offender is living nearby. Either they get notified or they can check a registry. It also tightened up reporting rules for offenders, more frequent check-ins, updated photos. It was a huge change in child protection, forcing a level of transparency.
But the personal cost was just immense. Sarah's dad, Michael, he struggled terribly afterwards. Alcoholism, depression. He died alone in his home in August 2002. He was only 45, just devastating. And Whiting himself, he's been attacked in prison twice. Once with a razor in 2002, then stabbed in the eye in 2011.
A truly horrific case with such far-reaching consequences.
Yeah. This whole story, it's just a horrifying reminder of how fragile childhood is and the pain of that kind of loss. It just endures. But it also shows the strength of a family, a community fighting for justice, and ultimately making changes that do help protect children today.
Definitely. The impact of Sarah's story went far beyond her own tragedy. It changed laws, it changed awareness. It really makes you think about the ongoing need for vigilance, for community safety, to protect the most vulnerable. Sarah's law came from unimaginable pain, but it serves a vital purpose.
If you found this deep dive important, maybe a bit harrowing, but important, please do remember to like, share, and subscribe to Horror Docs. It helps us keep bringing these stories to light. Thank you for joining us today.